my name is Natalie. Today I wanted to do the May announcement of Invisible Cities. So Invisible Cities, I'm sure you've heard what this project is all about. It is basically a Read the World project where we select 3 countries per month that we read books from. So usually it means that we promote especially translated literature, but there's a lot of countries where this is just not available as an option, so reading books about the country is another way to sort of approach this. So I am doing this project with a bunch of other people. We have Stephanie, Yamini, Nicole, Agnes, Michael, Will, and myself, and I will link the Discord below where we have most of the conversations surrounding the project and what we were doing, what we're reading, all of the things related to the project. There's a lot of people on the Discord. That has been fantastic to see all of the discussions and the sharing of resources, the sharing of various findings, and it's just a great community already. We also have a Instagram for this project that I will link below. We always announce the countries for a month, 2 months in advance, so you have the time to get a hold of books. Especially that has been the case for me with Brexit and everything. There's so many delays in shipping, so that 2 months is actually very necessary, I feel, to get a hold of books in time. I will link the previous announcements for the countries we'll be reading from below. That was all of the preparation for this video. The 3 countries we'll be reading from in May are Madagascar, Romania, and North Korea. I'm really excited for this selection. I think it will be really interesting to see what people decide to read from these countries. I have decided that I will mainly dedicate this month to North Korea because I have always been really interested in North Korea since I read In Order to Live, which was a few years ago. And it just opened my eyes to North Korea as a country and all of its history and societal structures and everything. I find it fascinating and just something that I feel like I've always been wanting to understand better and to have more knowledge about. And so I feel like this being chosen for May is just the perfect excuse I need to sort of just deep dive into North Korea. So I wanted to mention first of all a recommendation I have for North Korean reading for you. So of course I mentioned In Order to Live, and that is a fantastic book. There's a lot of memoirs from people who have lived in North Korea moving or escaping the country, moving away from the country, and usually they move to South Korea. So there's a lot of those types of books, and I'm sure a lot of them are also valuable and interesting to read. But the one that stands out to me in terms of these kinds of books is Dear Leader by Jang Jin-sun, which I read a few years ago and hasn't left my brain since then. It is really interesting because it does talk about him moving from North Korea to South Korea and the journey of that, and some of the struggles that goes into doing this very dangerous sort of move from over the border of the countries. But also because he had a very high position job in North Korea, he gives sort of an insider's look into the political structure of the country, how it works and why it is the way it is. There's just so much information that he has because of the kind of person he was or the kind of life he led in North Korea. It's such an engaging and important perspective to have, and I found it very helpful in understanding North Korea better. And so I wanted to specifically highlight that. If you haven't read it yet, then I would definitely recommend doing so for May. But then I have a few books that I have set aside as my potential books I will be reading in May for North Korea. First we have The Accusation by Bandy. This is one of the only books that has originated from North Korea and is available in English translation. Came out a few years ago. It's a short story collection and talks about North Korean life, and I think it's one of those books that I've been meaning to read since it came out, and I'm sure a lot of people have already read it. I'm fairly certain this is the first one I'll get to, and this was translated by Deborah Smith. The other book that has been published from North Korea into English recently is Friend by Pak Nam-nyong, and this is translated by Emmanuel Kim. So I think these are basically the only two books that has originated from North Korea and are available in English translation, so I'm definitely gonna attempt to read both of them in this month. And I don't really know what this one is about, so I'll read you a little bit of a synopsis here. It's a tale of a marital intrigue, abuse, and divorce in North Korea. A woman in her 30s comes to a courthouse petitioning for a divorce. As the judge who hears her statement begins to investigate the case, the story unfolds into a broader consideration of love and marriage. So those are the two books that are in translation that I have selected for my North Korean reading. But as I said, there's gonna be a lot of countries where there's just not a lot available in English translation or in any other translation that you have access to if you are multilingual. But I've selected a few non-fiction books that I would love to read about North Korea. So the one I think I'm most interested in is The Impossible State, North Korea Past and Future by Victor Cha. And this seems to be, if I understood it correctly, is a history of the division between North and South Korea, and sort of explaining the historical and political context of this, the relationship between the two parts of Korea and its current state, and how the current context, sort of how we got where we are today. The definite account of North Korea, its veiled past and uncertain future, from the former director of Asian Affairs at the National Security Council. This is one of those books that I've had my eye on to buy for a long time, so this will just be an excuse to finally buy it and to read it immediately for May. So the next one I have is a slightly different take on North Korean nonfiction, and this is Made in North Korea by Nick Bonner. And the description says, Made in North Korea uncovers the fascinating and surprisingly beautiful graphic culture of North Korea. From packaging to hotel brochures, luggage tags to tickets for the world-famous mass games. From his base in Beijing, Bonner has been running tours into North Korea for over 20 years, and along the way collecting graphic ephemera. So this is basically an art book collecting various illustrations and graphics from North Korea, and I'm assuming there's some kind of commentary on it as well, and sort of the purpose it serves in the country. I'm really interested in graphics and illustrations anyway in general, and especially this style. I don't really know how to explain it. I think it's sort of the post World War II era where there's a lot of interesting use of illustrations, and especially things like advertisement. And that is something I'm interested in, even with the sort of Soviet context. And I mentioned that before in connection with the Soviet Space Dogs book I have. I think it will be really interesting as a blend of the other things I'm planning to read in May. And thankfully my library has a copy of this. I know that there's another book, sort of a companion to this one. I think it's called Printed in North Korea, if I'm not mistaken, that I might also check out. We'll see. And then the last one I wanted to mention here is The Cleanest Race, How North Koreans Seize Themselves and Why It Matters by B.R. Myers. So the first full-length study of the North Korean worldview to draw on extensive research into the regime's domestic propaganda, including films, romance novels, and other artifacts of the Kim Dynasty personality cult. So again, we have the art perspective, but also sort of the way that it reflects an identity and sort of a narrative structure of the country itself and the people in it, how they view themselves. And I think that sounds like such a fascinating sort of point of view and theme. So this is again one of those books that I've had my eye on for a long time, like a few years, and again my library has a copy of it. So these are the three nonfiction related to North Korea that I'm most interested in. There's a ton of others, and like with the other two countries, Romania and Madagascar, we have also added a list of book titles in our resource spreadsheet. So if you're looking for ideas for any of the three countries I have mentioned as our May selection, then definitely go and look at the spreadsheet. We have book titles for all of the countries that has been announced up to date, including the three countries I mentioned today. So that was all I wanted to say in this May announcement. I would love to hear if you've read any of the books I talked about here, if you have any other recommendations that you would give for the three countries, or if you have already started to plan for your March reading, or if you have any ideas for what you would like to read for May for these three countries. I hope you are doing well and you're taking care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon.